Today we're going to learn how to grow a classic spring crop, and that would be peas. Kevin Espiritu here from Epic Gardening, where we're growing greener thumbs. Let's go. Peas are a quintessential spring crop, one of the easiest and most tasty and pleasurable things that you can grow in spring. So in today's video, I'm gonna go through the major categories of peas because there are a couple different types that you wanna consider, some sowing and planting recommendations, of course, some care and trellising, and at the end of the video, I will show you my favorite way to eat peas. Spoiler alert, it really doesn't have anything to do with going in the kitchen. So cultivate that like button and I will bless you with 55 more pea pods than you would have had this season. And let's get into the video. Peas are one of the oldest cultivated crops in the world, and they're a staple in many areas of the world, including here. I mean, in North America, we grow them all the time. They're fantastic. I know a lot of my British gardeners love to grow peas, and they have their own unique methods. The thing that's nice about peas is that they can tolerate cold, even light frost, and they're okay having what we call wet feet in the garden, which means that they're okay if the soil's a little overly moist. That makes them perfect as a spring crop because you're gonna get those cold temperatures, and also, unless you live here, you're probably gonna get a decent amount of rain. If you can manage your temperatures and keep the temps low in the summer by using shade or planting in an area that's a little bit cooler, you can actually grow peas all the way through into fall until the winter kills them off. So you, in theory, can grow them year round, but at least for me here in my warmer zone, I'm gonna grow them right now in the beginning of spring, and I'm also gonna restart them again in late fall, so I can get a winter crop. The thing you wanna know before you even start growing and planting your peas, which we'll get to in a second, is what type of pea should you grow? The three major types of peas are shelling peas, snap peas, and snow peas. And then you also have sweet peas, which are typically grown for the flowers. You don't wanna eat those. And then you have tendril peas, which are gonna grow for these tendrils and shoots, and you're not really consuming them for the pea pod. Let's talk about those three main categories though. First, you've got your snow peas. Your snow peas, you're going to eat the whole pod when the seeds inside, those pea seeds, are immature. They're underdeveloped, and the seed pod itself is translucent. So you just pull one off and pop it in your mouth. Very delicious. Next, you have your shelling peas, sometimes called English peas. The pods on these are a lot more fibrous. They'll have a string in them. And typically what you do is take the shell off, hence the name shelling, and you consume the peas after that, just eating the peas themselves. Then you've got your snap peas. They're a cross of shelling and snow, which means you get the best of both worlds. You can eat the whole pod, but you also have that nice sweetness in the pea itself. Finally, as far as varieties go, there are a lot of different types. You can get a dwarf or bushing style pea like the Desiree Dwarf Blauwschokker pea, a classic and a favorite of mine, or you can get more classic ones that will run all the way up, like a 6 to 7 foot tall structure. I'll leave a few varieties in the upper corner as we talk throughout this video that you can try out, but now let's get into how to actually sow and start your pea seeds. So here I have some little snow pea white peas. Of course, they're a snow pea, 30-day crop, 40 inches tall. And I know we've probably all seen peas before, but I figured I would just show you really quickly what they look like. These are the dried out pea seeds. A lot of people will say you should soak these to improve germination. It can definitely speed it up, and you don't have to do it. That's the thing to remember. You don't have to do it. So if you're gonna transplant, what you'll wanna do is just pop a little hole in here. These are the Epic 6L trays here. So I usually put 2 in, about an inch or so down. There you go, and cover it up. And you're good to go. You just have to wait, water it in, same sort of seed starting process as normal. So if you do opt to start your seeds indoors for spacing or timing reasons, then you just pop them out and transplant them in and you're totally good to go. But if you're like many gardeners, including myself, you may just want to make your life a little bit easier. Take your pea seeds and then just direct sow them in the bed. That's what we did right here on this little trellis. And as far as spacing goes, you actually can be quite aggressive with this. You can put, I think we put somewhere around 40 just right here. So you can plant them anywhere from 1 to 3 inches apart. You could plant them right next to each other. You could have more than one pea plant coming out of the same hole. As long as you don't go absolutely overkill, they're quite forgiving because you got to think about it. They're actually putting a lot of their growth upwards and the roots are relatively shallow and don't seem to mind competing with one another too much. So general rule of thumb, you can direct sow 1 inch deep, cover them up, make sure they're watered in. You've got a nice seed hole to soak through. And after that, you'll start to see them come up. And at this point, you really want to make sure the watering is on point because they're a shallow rooted plant. They're not going to do really well with like a very heavy clay soil. And they're not going to do really well if you let them dry out, especially early on. You'll get like yellowing down there. It just seems to be a bit of an issue. Another thing I've noticed is if you transplant, you can have a little bit more of an issue with the roots making themselves at home and really getting a lot of nitrogen out of that soil early on. And that's another reason why I usually prefer to direct sow my peas. One final planting method you really might enjoy if you're looking to plant a big old line of peas is to put them in a rain gutter. So fill the rain gutter up with some soil, sow your peas in a trench in that, and then once they sprout, you can just furrow and drop it directly into that furrow. I've seen this happen typically with the British gardeners. I don't know, maybe it's got popular over in the UK for a while, but I know Hugh Richards over at Hugh's Nursery does this. It's a really cool method and it's highly efficient as far as time, so you don't have to prick them all out and plop them in, although you of course could direct sow. Now, as far as care goes, we already talked about watering. It's shallow rooted. You want to make sure you keep that in mind, but you also want to give this maybe 6-ish plus hours of sun a day, as long as the temperatures stay relatively cool. Remember, it's a quintessential spring fall crop. So if the temperatures get too hot, I would say above maybe 80 degrees Fahrenheit, we'll put Celsius up here as well, then the pea production will start to terminate. So the flowers won't form or won't form as well, and the pods won't form or won't form as well. So you do want to keep those temperatures a little bit lower if you can. Fertility wise, I've never really fertilized my peas. Remember, they're a legume, they're a nitrogen fixing crop, so at some point in their growth, they're gonna start producing their own nitrogen. The one thing that I will say, and a lot of people recommend, I've done it and I've also not done this, and my results have been more or less the same, and that would be using a bacterial inoculant when you're transplanting or in your pea soil. The reason why is because they're only nitrogen fixing if the bacteria that partner up with the nodules on the roots are actually present. And so the logic there is if you inoculate with that bacteria, then those rhizobacteria, which is what they're called, will actually start to be present and start fixing the nitrogen at a faster rate. I really don't know because, like I said, I've done it both ways and my peas have been fine both ways. So maybe my soil already has a lot of rhizobacteria in it, or maybe the inoculant is doing something and I just haven't been able to really measure that. But it is something to consider. One of the most important parts of growing peas successfully is providing them some sort of structure upon which they can climb. So I have this, honestly a little weird looking because there's kale growing through it right now, but I'm gonna harvest the kale out pretty soon. This is just a bamboo trellis. So the bamboo stakes cost maybe $5 for a pack of 10 or 15 at the local nursery. That's relatively inexpensive. And then up top, it's just some twine. And the reason why this works is because peas have a tendril that'll go out, and as soon as it hits something solid, it starts to wrap around it, and that's how it supports itself as it climbs upwards. So as long as you're giving it something it can do that to, the trellising method doesn't really matter, but I'll show you 3 really quick ones here. So of course you have this one here, the bamboo twine one. You're just using some lashing up top, and I've covered that in a couple different videos before. If you want to see a full video though, let me know, I will make it for you. But let's take a look at another simple one. So this trellis here is actually the back side of one that I showed you guys earlier in the video. This is just a broken piece of a gardener's Vertex tomato cage. I accidentally broke it. I decided I could stab it into the ground flat. And then we have a lot of wind coming through in this direction, coming in this way. And so we stuck some bamboo stakes in here just as a backstop so that this doesn't blow like crazy against the wind. So for a while it was actually pulling all the way back and that wasn't really great. So this is just a fantastic way to slot in peas on the edge of a bed. And this is on the north side of the bed so that it's not shading anything out. Finally, we have more of an obelisk style trellis here. This one is coming out of a company called Terra Sculpture. I'll put it in the description, but as you can see, the peas eventually make their way up. The tendrils are attaching to this little wire right here, and they're staying with the structure. Otherwise, they would just be flopping. All these tendrils would be getting attached to each other and getting all tangled. And the production has been really, really great. And it kind of makes this nice natural look as it covers the trellis in green. When you're growing peas, you may run into some pest and disease issues. I wouldn't say they're really super disease or pest prone. On a disease perspective, you might get powdery mildew, you might get fusarium wilt, or you might get mosaic virus. I would say powdery mildew is probably your most common. That's the most common in general, it seems like. It's hard to avoid. I mean, keep the conditions relatively cool, make sure there's good airflow, make sure that you're not watering over the top of your peas, and you should be fine. As far as pests go, you're probably gonna get a little bit of aphid pressure, if anything else. I haven't seen a whole lot in my pea crops, either at this garden or gardens in the past. You can blast them off in the beginning of the day with some cold water. That tends to do the trick. I really haven't seen a whole lot of pest issues though. To So you've gotten through the beginning of your peas life, you've avoided some pests and disease. How do you know when it's time to harvest your peas? It really depends on the variety. So thinking back to the beginning of the video, if you have those snow peas, that's gonna be your earliest harvest because you're harvesting them at the immature pod stage, somewhere around 40 to 50 days or so. If you're harvesting a shelling pea, it's gonna be 60, 70 days, and you're gonna wanna make sure that it's nice and plump, it's ready to go, they're fully formed. My personal favorite pea though is a snap pea. So let's go out into the front yard. I'll show you how I like to eat my peas. So we're back out in the front yard. These are the peas that I like to eat. This is the phase that I like to eat them at. And what I like to do, instead of just ripping it off like this, where you can pull the entire plant and potentially rip a stem or damage it, just hold here and pull here. Then you're in a good spot. I accidentally missed the little flower there, but it doesn't really matter because the way I eat this pea is quite simple. I like to pop it open like this, and look at that. That's the exact phase that I like to eat them. They're not all the way fully formed, but they're not super young. So it's right at this phase. So let's do one more right here, just because, there you go. I want to show you that perfect pea phase. The sweetness on this, I swear guys, it is unreal, unreal. So there you go. Looks like we had a, oops, I lost one. We had a mishap right there. We lost this one, we lost that one, but whatever. These are still good, so let's go ahead and taste test. Actually, there you go. I finally got a nice looking one. Look at those bad boys. So here we have a couple of these peas. Let's give them a little taste test. It's so sweet. I'll tell you what, you eat them like this, there's almost no point in bringing them indoors. There's really no point. Look at this. Just pop them in. They're so good. Sweetness is insane, and they're so prolific that you can come out every single time. It's like a good incentive to come out in the garden and do a lot of your garden chores because you just pop some peas in your mouth and you're good to go. If you do want to see a little bit more on actually preparing food inside the home, check out my second channel, Epic Homesteading, where I go into a lot of the more homesteady type of stuff. Energy systems, recipes, we're getting chickens soon, all that kind of stuff is over on Epic Homesteading. But I hope this was a good informative guide on growing peas. It's a really fun crop, really easy for a beginner gardener, tons of different varieties, so I highly recommend you give it a shot. And until next time, good luck in the garden and keep on growing.